What's up, everybody? Eric here, driverlineup.com, holder case steering wheel holder. Just brushed my teeth. I know that someone in yesterday's video said they hate it when people go inside and brush their teeth in the sink. I didn't really have much choice. I'm sleeping in the truck where I'm at, and I needed to. It's early though. At least there's that. It's like 3:30 in the morning. Anyway, so back in the very beginning of 2019, I took a Greyhound bus. Very beginning of 2019, I took a Greyhound bus to drop me off right in front of this building. A lot of you already know where I'm at. Still, it looked the same back then. It smelled the same. It feels the same. To do something that felt crazy at the time. I'm just waking up. I haven't had coffee or nothing. I don't have my glasses on either. But 2 or 3 days after that, I sat right here, and I know for a fact that it's right here. But I don't my toothbrush in front of the camera. Hang on. I know, see that door right there, A2? That was my room. I think it's 111. So I sat right here on this curb in front of that window, in front of my room, and I called Jenna, and I was almost in tears, you guys. I was like freaking out. I was like, what have I done? You know, this is crazy. What am I thinking? What am I getting into? Am I gonna be able to be away from everybody for this long? Because I was getting ready for PSD and TNT. And turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. It was just life-changing. And here I am again, going through orientation and all that jazz. So for those of you who were saying prime the last few days, you guessed it. For those of you saying, hey, go get in one of your trucks the last couple of days, I haven't really addressed you because I've been sleeping in one of my trucks. So anyway, that's what this video is going to be about. Be right back. We're just going to have to do a grainy video. Sorry, guys. Not quite prepared for YouTube yet, as I said yesterday. So trying to figure that one out. So the video is grainy. I don't know what to tell you. I do not like the lighting in the Freightliner. There's a lot of things I miss about my Peterbilt, but I've got a great driver in my Peterbilt, and he even, to his credit, Jim, offered to bring my Peterbilt here to Springfield and switch over to the Freightliner, but I was not going to do that. I ain't going to do him like that. So he's going to be driving a Peterbilt. I want to try to get quickly through this and answer as many questions as I possibly can. There's probably going to be multiple videos about it. I wasn't prepared to do this video yet. Was trying to kind of be low-key about it while I was here in orientation. But the cat's out of the bag, man. There's too many people that have come up to me in the last couple days. Now they're starting to leave comments after we talk. So it is what it is. It's out there in the open, so I'm going to talk about it right now. So I am definitely in orientation at Prime at Campus Inn. I just got a couple classes to get through today. I finished all my CBTs last night, and OMG, I forgot how absolutely brutally painful that was. So painful. There's some classes that, if you're in my scenario, are just obnoxiously painful. And I know it's just part of the program, but like, for example, I can't comprehend why I need to sit through an hour and a half of an abacus class when I am an existing customer of Abacus and I have an existing LLC hauling freight for Prime. So painful to sit through, but it's all part of the process, all part of the program. So yes, one of my drivers, she had, well, I don't want to get into specifics, but for good reasons, she had to bring this truck, my Freightliner. I think this is a 2022 Freightliner. Yeah, this is a 22, I believe. She had to bring it back to Springfield and take some extended time, and which is totally for understandable reasons. So it was time. It was definitely time to, as I said in a video a few days ago, Jenna kind of was like, hey, you know, what would make the most sense is to go up there and get that truck moving. And at first I just revolted against the idea, but a couple minutes later I was, you know, just thinking about it. I was like, okay, yeah, it's time. Long overdue. It's time to go do it. So I've come up here, and it was remarkable, like record breaking, how fast this all got processed. I mean, I talked to my recruiter, who I think she was my original recruiter. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I've known her for years and years. And I called her up, and I swear, you guys, I am not joking about this. Everything was processed and approved in an hour and a half. And my fleet manager was on vacation last week. He was fishing. And this shit went through in an hour and a half last week. I'm talking about security, clearance, all of it. It was remarkable. And I think it was 5 or 6 days later, pulling into Prime. So it was a really crazy process. So I'm trying to think of there's going to be so many questions. Like, I want to talk about this truck maybe tomorrow or sometime later this week, and talk about the fleet. But I'm going to try and answer some questions really quick that just keep coming up. And first, let me say that I don't work for Prime. I haven't worked for Prime since 2019. The only time that I've ever worked for Prime is when I was in training. That was the only time that I was ever a W-2 employee for Prime. That was back in 2019. I have not worked for Prime since then. So I'm not an employee of Prime. I'm not a W-2. There's no salary or no hourly pay from Prime. I am not an employee of Prime. So that's really important to understand. My company hauls freight for Prime. That is the relationship. So the question that keeps coming up the most is, how can you not, I didn't know you could leave Prime, or I didn't know you could quit Prime or be fired by Prime and still haul freight. Well, you have to understand that relationship. I'm not an employee of Prime, so whether or not I drive a truck is not relevant on whether or not my company can pull freight for Prime. So I have 3 trucks. They're all in the lease purchase program, and they all have drivers. So my LLC and my trucks continue to haul freight for Prime. Whether I'm driving one of them or not is inconsequential. So you can, yes, the answer to that question, I saw it like 5 times yesterday. The answer to that question is yes, you can leave. In fact, there's another driver here going through orientation. He has 1 truck, and he hasn't driven his truck for almost a year, I think. He's had another driver on his truck, so he's coming back. He's coming back to drive his truck as well. So even if you have 1 truck, you don't have to have a private fleet like I do. Even if you have 1 truck, you can pay someone else to drive that truck. I think that's the case for standard lease too. I think. Don't quote me on that. You have to ask Success Leasing and Prime, but I think that might be the case for a standard lease as well. But I know for a fact, if you're doing a lease purchase and you need to go do something for 6 months, then you can put a Prime driver in that seat and pay that driver, and you'll, like, this whole time I've still been able to log into the Prime app. I can see every one of my every one of the loads that my trucks are on. I can see where my trucks are at. I can see their maintenance profile. I can see their mileage. I can see everything about my trucks. So I haven't been completely cut off. My fleet manager is still the same, even though I was not a driver authorized to drive a truck under Prime's authority. He was still my fleet manager, and I still had access to all the information about my trucks. I just couldn't legally move one of my trucks because they're operating under the authority of Prime. They have a DOT number that is operating under the authority of Prime. So that's how that continues to work. So now that I come back, I have to go through and go through orientation and get all their, safety certifications and all their hazmat certifications. It's not a hazmat endorsement, but it's a hazmat certification, because sometimes we haul, like one time I hauled 100 pounds of Bic lighters, right? So that was hazmat, but it wasn't enough to have a hazmat endorsement, but it does require their hazmat certifications to go through all that kind of stuff. To come back and drive under their authority. That does not mean that you are their employee. It just means that you're authorized and, all that good stuff. So that's what I'm doing. And as far as, there's just so much more to talk about in terms of the fleet. We've seen a lot of questions of, hey, can you get out of the fleet? Or, hey, the fleet's what's destroying you. Man, there is no way I would try to get out of my fleet. You're crazy if you think that's the right thing to do. You got to understand the amount of work and time and investment that was put into building this years ago. There's no way we're walking away from that. And there's good reason to just try and get through and deal with the headache of it when freight markets are down, when you have a long-term view, you have a long-tail view. I was also very happy to find out that my longevity continues in terms of ordering new trucks, because some of you think that we should scale down the fleet. We're actually of the mind that we should scale up the fleet. And I'll tell you why in some near future videos. But for those who pulled freight for Prime, you know that with leasing, every year that you're leasing, your deposit for a new lease purchase goes down by $1,000. So that was a big concern to me, because right now it's $14,000 deposit to buy a truck. Well, at this point, I'd be down at like 8,000 or 9,000, right? And so if you look at the verbiage, it doesn't say the number of years you've been driving. It says the number of years you've been leasing. So even though I left for half a year, I was still leasing through that whole time, still doing lease purchase. So that's good. But anyway, my point is, for those of you asking that question, that is not an option. That is not even remotely, it's not even a consideration. So if you're one that's saying, hey, you need to walk away, you need to get out of this fleet. No, you're crazy. No way we're doing that. The logical option is to come back and drive one of the trucks. That's the logical option. So that's what I'm doing. So I will say to the driver who is in this truck, you know who you are. Thank you for taking care of this truck. It is pretty, I was really surprised. I'm not saying that I expected you to to not take care of it. But this truck has had quite a few drivers. Well, not a lot, but like 4 or 5, I think. And it's got 220,000 miles. So, and I haven't seen this truck for a year and a half. So, you know, it was like driving up here, I was like, well, I have no idea what to expect. I'm really surprised and happy with the condition of the truck, and just really grateful that it's been taken care of. So I think I did a review video of this truck back when I first got it a couple years ago. But I may do some more talking about it in the next couple days. But yeah, I'm gonna be in a Freightliner. I don't mind that if I'm solo. If I was going to train or team Jim, I would have to get the Peterbilt back. There is no way I could sleep in a Freightliner going down the road. No way. But because I'm solo, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't, you know, I'm gonna get my ass kicked going down the road in this thing, and it is what it is. But at least I ain't trying to sleep. In fact, if that helps me stay energetic, alive, and awake, then great. If it keeps me from getting sleepy, good. So yeah, orientation here at campus. Now, it is substantially different. For everyone coming into orientation now, you got to understand that back in 2018 and 19, or at least at the very beginning of 2019, it was so radically different because, first of all, there was just a hiring frenzy. It was a frenzy. I think there were 2 classes per week, and both of those classes had well over 100 students. Like, think about that. If you're coming to campus here in the last couple months, or in the next couple months, or if you're here right now, and you think it's busy right now, try and imagine it with 200 students at any given moment. Because that was the case back then. And the reason for that is that everything was done here. Everything. You didn't go get your permit before you came here. You didn't go get your drug test before you came here. You didn't go do much of anything before you came here. There was no verification of your previous employers. There was no verification of your references. None of that happened until you got here, which meant a lot of people got sent home, as you can imagine. Like, I think the first thing we did when we got here was take a drug test. So you can imagine the whole week you're hearing on the intercom throughout campus, throughout the entire hotel, hey, so-and-so, could you come down to the office? And what that usually meant was you failed your drug test, GTFO. And it happened a lot. There was, I want to say, probably 15%, 20% of my class got sent home for failed drug test. So there was that, all the verification of employers. If you couldn't get through all that, you were sent home. It's just a lot of people were sent home, sent packing. And then while you were here, we all got on shuttles and went to the DMV in Springfield and took the written test and got a Missouri permit. And then at the end of the PSD, got a Missouri CDL. Everyone did, every single person. It wasn't like, hey, would you like to use this option? No, we all did. We all got a Missouri CDL and a Missouri permit. And then after we upgraded, we would go back to our home states and swap that CDL out for your home CDL. So for me, I had to go to Texas and swap it to Texas. So it was absolute chaos, because now all that stuff's already been done. So you just come in and sit down and go through your classes. Well, think of all the CBTs that I've been dealing with the last couple of days. And those of you, if you know, the CBTs are hell. Absolute hell. Well, imagine having to do all those CBTs while also studying for your permit, because you didn't know if you were going to be able to pass the permit test for the CDL before you got here. And you had to do combination brakes, you had to do tanker, you had to do all, there were like 3 tests I think you had to take. You had to study for all 3 of those, and you had to go so if you failed one, you had to go back to get on the shuttle the next day and go back and take the written test again. There were students that were, they were spending their entire orientation just studying the handbook and using different apps to study for their CDL, because while some of us that were fortunate enough to pass the first time, we're doing CBTs, they're still studying for their permit. Oh, it was a nightmare situation. That's not the way it is anymore. Now you do all that stuff before you come here. You do your drug tests. They've already done most of your security checks, your background. You go get your permit before you come here. So there's very little, if any, reason for a student to be sent home in orientation now. Very little. I can't even, I'm sure there is a reason, but I mean, other than if you F up when you're here, going over to Oasis and getting shit-faced or messing around with someone you might have been attracted to while you're here. Those are reasons that you'd be sent home. But it's not, back in the day, man, I swear to you guys, it felt like a third of my class got sent home for something. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but it felt like that. In fact, my roommate and I were both paranoid that we'd get sent home for something. We, like the file review and everything, because my employment was a little messy. I had some gaps of self-employment and stuff like that, so I was just, like biting my nails, hoping that they'd be okay with whatever it was. But I think it was the case that everybody who was here was stressed, wondering if there was going to be a reason to send home. And now all that's put to rest before you get here. So it's just a whole different process now. But anyway, it has been weird for me because I cannot legally move this truck, not even a foot. So it's my truck. And it's been my truck for a little over 2 years now. I cannot move it at all. I can't move it from the space it's in to the space next to it until this afternoon. This afternoon I can move it. I can drive it this afternoon. But right now, in the last 2 days, I've moved into it. I got all my stuff in here. I've been sleeping in here. I can pull up this truck on the Prime app and see all the information about it. But I can't move it until this afternoon, till I get cleared out, and I already even have a badge, so I don't even need to get badged, because my badge just continued on too, because my badge is attached to my trucks and my fleet. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing, guys. We're going to be going out there and dragging some prime freight around the country. And I know there's just a ton of questions about running a fleet for Prime. I see every single day, and I want to try to get into some of that. So maybe we'll do that, but lots to talk about. So now you know. Those of you who already knew, you already knew, but now everyone knows. Back pulling Prime freight, driving a Freightliner Cascadia OTR. So here we go, guys. That's going to be the next few videos. I've got some hoops I need to jump through. I need to drive back to Texas, and then I'm going to hitch a ride with one of my drivers back up here. So there's still some hoops to jump through before I'm actually running freight. Not super big hoops, but anyway, be safe, make good decisions as always, drive, thrive. Talk to you all soon.